My fellow Ambazonians, fellow Southern Cameroonians, I come to you today to address four things. The position of your interim government on the set negotiations in Geneva, Switzerland, House Resolution 358 in the US, a call that we fund ground zero, and what true comradeship is. We continue to count the debt on a daily basis. Fellow people, let us observe a minute of silence for all Ambazonians whose lives have been brutally taken away by French Cameroon terrorist forces. A minute of silence, please. May the souls of the faithful departed rest in perfect peace. I begin with the first agenda item of the day, a statement from Vice President Comrade Daphne Yerima. It is titled "The People's Interim Government Position on the Said Negotiations in Geneva, Switzerland." Fellow Ambazonians, I bring you revolutionary greetings from President Sisiko Ayoktabe and a collective leadership in detention. They are illegally held by La République du Cameroon as political prisoners of this struggle. The interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, the IG, wish to call for calm. Your IG is for peace in our homeland, but cannot only talk of peace without justice to the over 4 million people affected by this struggle. Over 1.3 million people are in need of urgent humanitarian aid. Over 500,000 people are internally displaced and living in bushes. We have over 500,000 refugees. Over 206 Ambazonian villages burned down by colonial Cameroon government tax. Over 2,000 of our people killed. Over 2,500 political prisoners being illegally held in La République detention facilities. Over 100 of our villages deserted, and the list is endless. Fellow people, in April 2019, the UN reported that the conflict was affecting at least 4 million people. That is close to the entire population of Ireland or New Zealand, and more than the population of some 103 countries that are all members of the United Nations. We cannot talk of peace without justice. Therefore, your interim government is not and will not be involved in any talks or negotiations without a consultative process with our sovereign people, the people whose struggle we are championing. We must ensure that all our people, including our leaders, currently paying the second highest price after our fallen heroes are released and our streets demilitarized. That is in addition to negotiations taking place on neutral territory, and we insist with neutral negotiators. I wish to inform you, our people, that President Sisiko Ayoktabe and his team are strong in spirit. He is demonstrating his selflessness to our people in leading by example and putting his people first. The message from him to you tonight is, he will be the last detainee to walk out of the dungeons of La République du Cameroon after all other Ambazonians have been released for the cause we are all fighting for. The release of the Ambazonian Freedom Protocol stating total independence or resistance forever, and the future expectations for negotiations signed by the NERA 10 leaders is testimony of their resolve for free and independent Ambazonia. He again sends endless thanks to all of you, our people, for all your sacrifices, your commitment, and your support to see them and our homeland free, like he did when I brought the very first official message. You all heard from him. Fellow compatriots, recalling the legal history of Ambazonia, the erstwhile United Nations British Trust territory of the Southern Cameroons are a unique people with a unique legal history whose independence was voted by the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1608 sub 15 of the 21st of April 1961. Since a minute past midnight on September 30th, 1961 to date, that has been sealed in an unconstitutional box of unfinished decolonization. The root cause of the situation of our people is further rooted in the mix of trickery of opaque meeting processes dating as far back as the failed Fumban constitutional talks of 1961. This meeting was between La République du Cameroun, which had independence on the 1st of January 1960, as you all know, and on the one hand, and the erstwhile United Nations British Trust territory of the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia, that was supposed or had independence fixed at October 1st, 1961. Fellow countrymen, the third Fumban Fiesta misnamed Constitutional Conference through a combination of tricks that led to its inconclusiveness, the symbol of which was abused and misused to our detriment, is still very fresh on our minds. We see very clearly a replay of the Fumban technique refined in the opaqueness of the meeting being called in Geneva, Switzerland. The following issues are to be satisfactorily answered from Ambazonia in consultation with its people or our people as a minimum condition to be considered for any form of negotiations. 1. Is there a clear definition of the dispute or the conflict, the resolution of which should be the rationale for any meetings from the very onset? 2. Is there clear identification of the parties to the dispute, and especially their statutes, as it is a false narrative that Ambazonia is a part of La République du Cameroon, while the true narrative is rooted in verifiable legal history that we are people of two different states. 3. How on the side, La République du Cameroon, French Cameroon, displayed transparency with respect to unconditional negotiations. 4. What is the mandate of a neutral third party in intervening groups? Such clarity, which will assure us of the same leverage on both parties to the conflict in order to dispel the looming fear that any prospective mediator might be tricked ultimately to set up what truly La République du Cameroon hopes for, a disciplinary cession of part of her claimed territory. 5. Are multinational, regional, and international organizations like the United Nations, the African Union, ECCA, ECOWAS, etc., knowingly interested in this negotiation process? 6. Do we have a full disclosure of the conflict parties' disposition towards the peace-building process or project? Otherwise, the supposed mediating or negotiating party may either knowingly or innocently lure Ambazonia, the mistaken lesser party, into a supposed negotiations beset with opaqueness behind which inequality and disequilibrium festers at the expense of the goal of peace building. And finally, 7. How will the outcome of the said negotiations be enforceable? Fellow people, we are not dealing with a dispute between individuals but independent nations. We need time for our own internal consultations before meeting on the negotiation table. Realistically, the following will set the stage for any potential negotiations. 1. An agreement and at worst a statement of understanding by each party committing to enter into negotiations. Written, 2, getting both parties to create an enabling environment for negotiations, which includes the calling of a ceasefire from the invasion of Ambazonia. 3, the unconditional release of all those arrested and detained as a result of our restoration quest. 4, allowing the parties source funds to finance the process after they are fully mapped out so as to avoid funding with strings. 5, equally, to ensure that the intent in the projected 2 states of equal status projected, even though not achieved in Fumban, to guide negotiations at par is invoked. 6, it is important to also note and share the views of President Sisikwa Yoktabi, the leader of this revolution and the collective leadership in detention, which has been communicated to the United Nations and the African Union. Ambazonia is seeking peace and justice, and very probably the other party to the conflict, La République du Cameroon, seems to be content with a halfway house project for more cosmetic peace, which excludes justice. And this is unacceptable to Ambalanders. There can never be peace without justice. We repeat it again. There can never be peace without justice. The lives of our people would never go in vain. Our people will never be fooled again. It shall be total independence, all resistance forever. Thank you, and may God bless you, Ambazonia. Signed, Comrade Daphne Yerema, Vice President, Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Fellow comrades, I move to a second statement. The position of your interim government on the U.S. House Resolution 358. We understand there has been a serious conversation going on with regards to the bill submitted in Congress, House Resolution 358. We are generally happy about the bills, but now is the time to do the hard work and make sure the U.S. government via Congress hold the French neo-colonial regime in Cameroon accountable for its crimes against our people. As I speak, our comrades are working with multiple co-sponsors of House Resolution 358 to fix it and make it past the U.S. Congress. These comrades started challenging this bill as far back as last year when it was submitted as House Resolution 111. In 3 years of the conflict between Ambazonian and French Cameroon, colonial French Cameroon, we have not succeeded to pass a single bill in any parliament around the world highlighting what is happening to our people. House Resolution 358 now has 46 co-sponsors and a handful of others. The bill has a huge chance of coming out of committee into the floor for voting. Our comrades are working to both push a campaign to change the bill and make it reflect the current reality on the ground, and to pass it for the benefit of protecting our people and nation and our land. We call on our people, especially those in the U.S., to join the upcoming campaign to rewrite the bill, led by Ambazonians in Chicago, in Minnesota, in New York, and across the United States. They will provide our community with very specific shortcomings of House Resolution 358, and will provide us with the correct text and explain how to go about supporting the necessary changes. So please, to our fellow compatriots in the U.S., get your zip code, the name and the address of your congressperson and your 2 senators, and by the end of the week we will be adhering both here on SCBC and other mediums the necessary actions we need to take to make sure a bill goes through to the U.S. Congress that holds the Cameroon regime accountable and brings us closer to having Cameroon as a permanent item on the UN Security Council agenda. Your interim government sends very special thanks to all Ambazonians who have done everything in their power to make sure that House Resolution 358 does not derail us from resounding victories we're scoring on many fronts as far as our struggle is concerned. Thank you and thank you and thank you again. That is the right thing to do. We want to re-emphasize again that for all Ambazonians in the diaspora, there are two important things that are paramount importance that you must do on a regular basis to support our people in Ground Zero. Number one is diplomacy, diplomacy, diplomacy. And House Resolution 358 gives us a great opportunity to do that. The second one is, of course, funding. And like I always say, if a month goes by and you have not put your name down on any platform you support in this struggle as per financial support, you must ask yourself, make a talk for pigeon. You be wish man. How else do you want anybody to tell you that this struggle is for you? It's for your freedom. It's for your dignity. Do you want our comrades that have been slaughtered in cold blood? Do you want Mama Apia? Do you want Sam Sawyer? Do you want Baby Martha to come out of their graves and write a book for you to know that had it not been a collective freedom, they might steal their life today? Funding this revolution is a must. We insist it is a must because the people in Ground Zero are funding this revolution with their life and with their blood. The least you and I can do in the diaspora is to fund it with the money. And when we talk of funding the revolution with the money, we are not referring to funding the revolution with change. We are not referring to funding the revolution with spare money. We are referring to funding the revolution with a sacrifice, which is equal to the sacrifice of our fallen heroes. Fellow comrades of our different platforms, of the patriotic platforms, I thank you so much for heeding to the call of the new dawn. Truly, this is the new dawn. And over the last few weeks, with your collections, we've done a lot in the prisons. We've done a lot with our boys on the ground. We've done a lot with refugees. Our different secretaries of states, our different comrades that lead our different revolutionary platforms. Welcome on your national TV, the Voice of Ambazonia, the SCBC, as well as on other patriotic platforms, and give you a report of what your money is doing. Leadership must account. And in the new dawn, we have made a commitment to account. A on the IGK stands for accountability. We commit to that, and we ask you to hold us accountable. So comrades, fund Ground Zero. Fund Ground Zero and fund Ground Zero again. To those of you in the diaspora that got doubly blessed, to those of you in Ground Zero that got doubly blessed, you need to give a double and a triple portion of the contributions. And every time I talk about funding, I want to remind our people that this government declared war on kidnapping and ransom taking. This government called upon every single Ambazonian community to set up vigilantes. Let us not allow criminals destroy our struggle. One of the biggest enemies of this struggle now is kidnapping. We know that most of these is sponsored by La Republique du Cameroon. But vigilantes, you are the eyes of our community. Know everybody that comes in and everybody that goes out. Our people have been supporting you with everything they have because they trust in your protection. They trust in you as the vanguards of our different communities. Please do not disappoint our people. Please do not disappoint our people. We beg of you, support and support and support our boys. Our boys defend and defend and defend our nation, our flag. Pay allegiance only to the Ambazonian flag. Do not allow the dirty politics coming out of stinking politicians in the diaspora who are doing politics in the middle of the revolution to divert your attention. You were called upon by God to save your nation. Please save your nation. We walked out of Egypt. We are going through the Red Sea on dry land. Even though the enemies, like public terrorist forces, are following us, I tell you, and I repeat it again, that the Egyptians you see today, you shall see them no more. On one condition, that we all stand as one. We stand for the truth. We stand for unity. And we fight against all enablers, all counter-revolutionary forces whose speciality is to derail this revolution. I count on you, and I trust that as I speak the voice of every true, honest Ambazonian, this word you will not allow it to fall on sand. You will make it to be implanted in your heart so that together we can free our people. That is what you call comradeship. Fellow comrades, I decided to go into the English dictionary to look at what the definition of a comrade is, especially looking at all the distractions we've had on all our platforms, self-inflicted pain by politicians and permanently criminals in our midst. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, and I want you to listen attentively, a comrade is a friend, underline a friend, especially one who has been involved in different difficult or dangerous activities with you. Such activities could either be military or freedom. Another dictionary defines a comrade as a friend or trusted companion. A friend or trusted companion, especially one with whom you have been involved in difficult or dangerous activities. My fellow Ambazonians. So a comrade is somebody who will never stop you when you're going in front, from the back. A comrade is one who will always cover your back. A comrade is a friend. A comrade is a trusted companion. In both definitions, the key word that stood out is the word a friend. Now I want to ask you, who are your true comrades? Perhaps let me rephrase the question properly. Who are your comrades? Because they are either your comrades or watch out. You might actually be thinking they are your comrades, but they might be comrades to others and jointly they are against you. So to all of you honest Ambazonians who have given up all to defend our homeland, you are my comrades. And most of you, I know you by heart. You equally know those who are your comrades and you know them off by heart. Thank you for all you continue to do. This is the people's revolution. This is your revolution. Leaders must never forget who owns this revolution. Leaders must never take our people for granted, and that includes me. Note that the biggest voice in this revolution is the silent majority. They truly own what we call people power. We must get most of our people involved in all our decision-making processes, because that's the only time our people truly own what we do. To all country, regional, local government areas and country leaders and leadership teams, your IG is very proud of you. First, for accepting to serve our people, and secondly, for sacrificing so much of your personal time, money, and effort to mobilize all within your country, your region, your local government area, or county to see us get to Boya soonest. Some of you were elected by constituencies, by your constituencies. Others took up the duties of a coordinating leadership to organize your constituencies. and are building the structures to put in place an elected leadership. To both groups of leaders, your efforts will never go in vain. You are the financiers of this revolution. You are those raising all the money we are using to prosecute this revolution, at least for now, while we are still looking for trusted foreign friends. You are the first people who get the cries and anguish of wailing mothers and fathers when La Republic du Cameroon military tanks unleash their terror on our communities, killing mainly armless and defenseless civilians, youths, girls, and children. The worst definition of a comrade, fellow comrades, is when the fish starts getting rotten from the top. If you do nothing, the entire body gets wasted. How else can we save a revolution than say we need to get our people review all institutions and help the collectiveness of our leadership, have the political will, the revolutionary will to set up institutions that are responsive to the pride of our people, institutions that are properly representative to our people and very inclusive, as well as institutions that are accountable to our people at the local government, county, country, and regional levels. This is an ideal we must achieve. Fellow people, we have increasingly seen the growth of a leadership category in our struggle, which many now call the group of revolutionary clowns, led by a chief revolutionary clown, a deputy chief revolutionary clown, a second deputy chief revolutionary clown, and their clownish follower leaders, who have bared for themselves a trademark of lying with open eyes even when it is so obvious what is the truth, who have specialized in turning one revolutionary institution against another, in banning one revolutionary institution against another, in closing one revolutionary institution one after another, who have specialized in pushing out of the struggle our very best by using surrogates who have lost their thinking ability, by allowing themselves to be manipulated, used, and of course awaiting dumping when they have no relevance again, like many before them have been dumped. Only chief revolutionary clowns will choose disunity over unity. Only chief revolutionary clowns will despise facts and conventional ways of getting the people free to lies, blackmailings, backstabbing, and trickery as a way to prosecute this revolution. Only chief revolutionary clowns will replace sound revolutionary strategic thinking for deceit and cheap propaganda to uphold internet positions with no real power. Imagine what they would do if we have power and we now start conquering and holding a local government area or country. Only chief revolutionary clowns will go on Facebook to measure their popularity after using hired senseless surrogates to wage a war against their own freedom, and clicking one right after another, and posting statements that they have crafted in order to awaken their modish, their modish personalities. Only chief revolutionary clowns will refuse that negotiations to unite our people failed because they were not interested in unity, but to protect cheap power with no basis. Only chief revolutionary clowns would deny that the change that took place in the interim government was the right thing to do, and it happened over a sustained period with key stakeholders in our revolution saying it is time to get the revolution back on track by resetting. Only chief revolutionary clowns will turn to the international community. I repeat this again. Only chief revolutionary clowns will turn to the international community for legitimacy by floating their emptiness in letters designed to expose their naivety. The power is held by our people on ground zero. ground one, and in the diaspora. We remind the authors of that letter that dragged the whole of Ambazonia into mud, that the cause of Ambazonia will not spare you. We tell these chief revolutionary clowns that the international community is not stupid. To some of those that are involved in diplomacy, let us tell them that the international community has got sound research arms. By the time you come to them, they know the facts. The international community knows who leads this struggle. The international community knows who are the leaders of our people. Your letters only go to show how cruel and wicked your minds are. Only chief revolutionary clowns can ask an innocent man to apologize for their crimes. My fellow people, we have had enough. We have had enough. We open this day a black book for all crimes committed by all Ambazonians to derail this struggle. Do notice that in the last few weeks, we have unmasked so many of you. Let me tell you this. Wherever you meet with your evil plans, the moment you have more than two people, I want you to know there is one patriotic Ambazonian who will report to the government of the people, who will report to the new dawn government what your evil plans are. And most of the times, we allow you to display your stupidity in public. But we assure you that we know you, we have your profile, we have your CV in our books, and every action you are taking, you will answer for it. You will be tried one after another when we get to Boya. We want to warn you again as the government of the people. We want to warn you again as the government of the people. We have buried too many. For you to take this revolution and think it is drama. For you to think we are clowning. For you to think that this is a movie. This is war. This is war against an innocent people. This is war against a people whose only crime is they have decided to stand up and fight for dignity, to stand up and fight for their freedom, to stand up and fight for justice. And that includes your freedom. That includes moving all of us into a country with great potentials. Fellow people, those of you revolutionary clown leaders, you have misled too many of our people. We want to challenge you. We want to challenge you to stop what you're doing. We will be dragging you one after another onto open platforms with independent journalists so that the Ambazonian people know that your actions have never been for them. And to those of you who lead platforms and use them to deceive a lot of our people, we beg of you, this is time to unify our people. Let us focus on the revolution. Let us focus on our freedom. I read a comment that there can be no forgiveness without repentance. We ask you who's been deceived to come and say you are sorry. We will forgive you. We ask the leaders who've been deceived to come and say you are sorry. We will forgive you. Ambazonia is for all Ambazonians. Listen to this. When we finally free our country, even those that are against us today will move into Ambazonia and will call themselves Ambazonians. They will be proud to call themselves Ambazonians because the roads will be first class. The schools will be first class. The hospitals will be first class. And every administration will be responsive, because our people will have the power to hold everybody accountable, irrespective of who you are. Fellow Ambazonians, let us stand for the truth, because the truth can never be defeated. Let us stand with the facts, because facts don't lie. Let us stand with the suffering masses of our people, because that's the only correct thing to do. The New Dawn government is here to serve you. The New Dawn government is here for all Ambazonians. And when we say all, we mean all. Fellow people, it is resistance forever or total independence. Short live the struggle, long live Ambazonia. God bless you.
Ambazonians pledge our loyalty, praise to our Savior who granted us the freedom, and led us to the hero who bowed the land with Diablo. Glory to glory, we rise and never to fall. Here in our nation, flowing with earth and holy. Glory, glory, glory to the Father, for making you a nation, a joy forevermore. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, you shall live in plenty, meeting our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God being the watchman of this nation.
We're back, bigger and better. SCBC TV now covers Africa and Europe on a free-to-air satellite with the following coordinates on IS-20 KU band. If you were blocked before or not able to receive our signal, this is good news for you. Contact any local satellite dish installer near